Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to the participation meeting on the electronic identity and the trust infrastructure from the Swiss Confederation. This is the executive summary of our participation meeting that we've had just 2 hours ago for you, the English-speaking community. My name is Rolf Rauschenbach. I'm the communications officer for the electronic identity, and it will be my pleasure to moderate this executive summary for you today. Today is a little bit special. It will be actually a little bit more than a executive summary. We have decided spontaneously to invite one of our guests to redo their full presentation also in English, because we believe that is a topic that is really also interesting to an international audience. As always, if you prefer to see our slides in German or in French, please go to GitHub. You will find the slides there. The link on the display gets you there. The agenda, I will first talk about the internal testing phase. Then my colleague André Kunz will talk about the current status of public beta, and even more so what is in the planning for the next weeks and months. Then in parentheses, the SSI simulation demo, that was another contribution by an external speaker. There I will give you just a brief overview. We will not provide the full Monty. And finally, as I mentioned, our colleagues from DIDAS will present their work on trust flow diagrams. We have Jean-Luc in the chat. Feel free to get active there. Yeah, that's really what we are planning to do today. We have here the code, the link to Slido, where you can ask questions on the screen right now, so that you can actually ask these questions, because obviously via YouTube this is a little bit more complicated, or actually not really feasible. Okay, as always, this executive summary will be recorded, and the recording will be published on YouTube in the coming days for those who would like to rewatch or see it as they were not able to join us now live. Also, with regard to questions and answers, obviously we're more than happy to answer your questions. Please ask your questions on topics specific to our program today. If you have general questions, I would like to refer you to the different resources on our website, on GitHub, or also maybe have a look at some of our introductory videos on YouTube. And also, as you know, we are not yet live with the productive system, so we are still working, and we always appreciate your feedback on our work. Use the link displayed on the screen right now to provide us with your constructive and detailed feedback. Okay, with this, I would like to get to the first topic of our program today, the internal testing phase. Most of you might remember when we published our last press release, that was in February 25, we announced that we are working toward the date of the 1st of December 26 to go productive with our trust infrastructure, to go productive also with the issuing of electronic identities. However, we mentioned already at that time that before we go live with the productive system, we will do an internal test with potentially all 40,000 employees of the federal government. And in February, we also told you that we plan to start with this testing phase in July 26, meaning in a few days. Now, I have to inform you that this internal test stage has been postponed. The work on the introduction of the EID is ongoing. The focus of the adjustments announced in the press release of February 25, which are designed to further strengthen data protection and reliability of the EID and the associated infrastructure. However, these adjustments have been only partially completed by today, which is why the internal Federal Administration test phase planned for July is being postponed. It is possible that the introduction of the EID will be delayed accordingly. With this, I would like to go to our next topic, the update on public beta, and here André Kunz is joining us. Please, André.
Thank you, Rolf. To start with, I would like to give an overview of new releases of our swiyu public beta trust infrastructure. There will be some new releases soon in the app stores for Android and Wallet. Important steps here are the contract of the DACL presentation format, which will replace the diff format, which was running parallelly for several weeks now. We have some expand steps for the new standards that we are implementing, and important is also that invalid credentials will no longer be presented. So if they are not valid yet or expired, you can't show them anymore. There are also new versions from the DIT toolbox and the DIT resolver, and we are currently just today released the new versions of the swiyu generic issuer and the generic verifier. We will announce the most relevant steps of these new versions on our channels on GitHub or on the swiyu documentation, technical documentation website. As we are planning to stepping up the productive environment, we will divide the public beta and the productive infrastructure. Today you have with the swiyu app access to the public beta infrastructure. In future there will be a dedicated swiyu sandbox apps which is restricted to the sandbox infrastructure. The swiyu app will be restricted to the productive environment. What does it mean? For potential newcomers, if you plan to test the swiyu, our infrastructure, we recommend that you wait until the new onboarding for the sandbox is ready. This should be around mid-August. With this, we have all the new standards fully implemented on the sandbox environment. It's important to note that there is no migration from sandbox to the productive environment. If you are currently testing our environment as issuer or verifier, there will be a grace period of at least 1 month where you have time to upgrade to the new standards. We will inform you on our channels and also provide migration guidelines how to implement the new standards. It's the same here. There will be no automatic migration from the sandbox to the productive environment. To sum up, what are the to-dos? If you are an issuer, you have to re-onboard to the price and trust registry with the new DITs, with the new standards. You can use the DIT Toolbox 2.1, which helps you to create the DITs. And you also have to store the information for the Trust Protocol 2.0. Credentials should be or have to be created with the swiyu issue 3.1 or newer versions. For verifiers, there's the same. First, you have to re-onboard on the base and trust registry, and for the verification of the credentials, you have to use the swiyu verifier 2.3 or even 3.0. That is the point that we are also going to announce in the next few days. Important, okay, you have to, when the production environment goes live, you have to re-register in this specific environment, and credentials are restricted either to the sandbox or to the productive environment. There is a planned system downtime on the 25th of June. We are doing some internal system recovery tests, and this may lead to system interruptions to our infrastructure. You'll find information about planned or spontaneous out times on the swiyu discussion link, which is on the slides. That's from my part.
Okay, thank you, André, for this update. With this, I would just like to briefly talk also about the presentation that has been made by Christian Probst from the Canton of Basel, a colleague from the cantonal administration. However, what he has presented, I believe, was a private project and even more impressive. He has wipe-coded a website which is simulating everything you can imagine in the context of self-sovereign identities and digital credentials. I show you here only a screenshot. The URL is govar.ch. Unfortunately, at the moment, it's only in English, but I'm sure you are all smart enough to get also English. Sorry, at the moment, it's only in German, but I'm sure you're all smart enough to get it translated to your preferred language. What is the special thing about this website is that you can simulate all kinds of transactions, issuing, verifying, revocation, and so on. But you don't only see that these things are happening, but you see it down to the line of code. You see how the status list is changing when you revoke something. You see the formats of the different credentials and so on. So it's really a very detailed and educational website to get more familiar with SSI technology. However, I would like to add that obviously this is a wipe-coded website, and it does not reflect to 100% what we are actually doing here at the federal government. So please take certain things with a grain of salt, but for a conceptual understanding, it is fantastic, and I would like to thank again Christian for his great effort. With this, we get to the last, but not least, contribution to our program today. Some colleagues from DIDAS have been working quite intensively on so-called trust flow diagrams, and they would like to share their work with you. The introduction will be made by Daniel Galle, my colleague from the Federal Office of Justice. Please.
Thank you, Rolf. I'm very pleased to give you a quick introduction today about this very important topic, trust flow diagram repository, and a quick introduction also to give a little bit more context about this initiative. How does it fit the broader context in regard to the development of the ecosystem? After my quick introduction, will Nora and Axel go more into detail about the motivation behind this initiative, explain the concept, also bring you a short example in the education world. How does it work? Also explain the work in progress, which other flows are currently in development, and at the end also provide some learnings and benefits from the entire process. I hope this presentation will also motivate you to engage and to get in contact and get in touch with the working groups working on these topics, to also work on your processes and also develop your own diagrams based on this. To give you a little bit of context, you can probably remember in February we announced the launch of the label swiyu Orchestrator with Digitale Verwaltungsschweiz as an orchestrator for the ambition level 2 and DIDAS as an orchestrator for ambition level 3. And this is exactly how this initiative, Trust Flow Diagram Repository, fits. This is exactly an activity that an orchestrator role could do, because it goes into a collaborative engagement, and this is exactly the role DIDAS play in this ecosystem of ambition level 3. And as you can see in the slides, it's not only to help organization to validate use cases, it goes a little bit more into details. It helps also organization to work on the planning, on the development of their use cases, and also maybe for the standardization at the end of the process. To give you a little bit more details, a flow can also provide a very comprehensive explanation about the use case and the processes. It also supports the proof of concepts, giving the possibility to make some estimates about the costs, about the potential value a use case can bring to your organization. It will help also on the planning side to have specific interface to your application published on these diagrams, and also, as mentioned, identify maybe some standardization interfaces. I think this great initiative is really nice and brings a lot of value also for organizations. And to mention, I think the collaborative exercise is really the added value to bring all the players at the table and discuss the flows end to end. And this is what Open Banking Project did in the past month. They use these methods quite intensively, also with the support of Swiss Informatics and their know-how to work on that. So I think it's a great opportunity to work on processes, organizational processes, make them transparent. And on that, I will give the word to Nora and Axel, who will deep dive into the details. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daniel. My name is Nora Slumer, and I'm the Vice President of the Swiss Informatics Society. There I organize events, and since 3 years, since we invited Rolf Rauschenbach and Jonas to present at our annual Congress, I have been the head of the EID working group at Swiss Informatics, and we have been developing such diagrams ever since. I am now with Axel, the co-head of the working group Trust Flows at DDoS, because DDoS is a very great platform for people to come together. Until last year, I was a initiative manager at UBS, and before that, a developer, project and program manager at Credit Suisse and many other companies for 25 years. I have a Master's of Mathematics from the University of Waterloo, and I came to Switzerland to do my PhD in theoretical computer science that I finished in the year 2000. So my goal is to apply the knowledge I've built up and the processes I've built up during all these years and apply them to making EID successful in Switzerland.
Yeah, and I'm Axel. I'm joining on that. I would also like to help the adoption, and I do this both in part as part of DDoS and also in my job at Adnovum, where I'm responsible for everything kind of related to EID, verifiable credentials, and digital trust infrastructures. And as such, I'm really excited to do adoption because I'm actually coming, so I'm working now in the digital identity space for a few years. Actually, my background is also academic. I worked on theoretical chemistry and molecular physics. And now I'm actually happy again to have some kind of cutting edge topic, which is going to have quite an impact. And I'm really excited to also join here on this adoption path.
As you see, we are part of Swiss Informatics, at least I'm part of Swiss Informatics, and we are both also part of the Open Banking Project, where Stefan Knaus has organized many workshops. And at these workshops, he gives us tasks to complete, and one of them here was to do a brainstorming about a client walking into a bank wanting to identify themselves with an EID. And the request was to visualize how that process works, who are all the actors involved. There's the client, of course, there's the bank, there's the middle layer, and what processes need to happen and how does data flow from one end to the other. So we put the notes up on the whiteboard, and afterwards I sat down with Miro and I mapped it out, and it didn't quite make sense. And of course, the first feedback I got is, yeah, no, Nora, that's wrong here and here and here. And then Mike Duyak went and made a second version that you see at the bottom that makes much more sense. When I showed that then to Axel, he said, oh yeah, but now with the new security measures that we need to take since September, we need to add another step here and here. And now this whole flow diagram is a fantastic basis for discussing. And we do that, as Rolf said, at the as Daniel said, as the Open Banking Project in our workshops there. So this is one of the motivations to help people understand at the next level of granularity, not just a client walks into a bank, but in more detail, who the actors are and how they interact with each other and what data gets sent. So when you have more actors, then you have also dependencies, and you need to manage the interfaces between the components of the systems of those actors. So here you can see each of the blue ones, boxes on the left is an actor. They perform an initial manual process to get it started, and all the yellow boxes are automated processes. And these automated processes talk to each other. Each arrow between components belong to different actors, and they're external inter-entity dependencies that require well-defined interface and close management. These can lead to standardized interfaces and protocols that are nationally and even internationally accepted. Another big thing you can do with trust flow diagrams is to use them for the basis of your plan, of your project plan. Here is an example from Atlassian Roadmap, where epics can, for example, represent the implementation of a yellow box in the flow. So then each process step could be, for example, an epic in the backlog. And when you have two epics that are highly dependent on each other, you can visualize that in your Gantt chart and make sure that they are implemented and tested and deployed in conjunction with each other. So this helps a lot to coordinate the planning. This is how I ran my multi-million-dollar programs and projects, and that helps very much to have a feeling of what is going on and who needs to do what. Another thing that is always asked of program and project managers is how much is it going to cost? So you can here as well do an estimate for each box and sum them all up and say, in this example, with these estimates, the verifier would have to do 60 or 80 person days of work in order to implement that. And then you can use that to motivate the business case to compare that to then the benefits. It also helps to draw various variations of a flow if there are different ways of doing things, and then you can estimate the costs of the different variations and compare them to each other. So that is the motivation from the beginning.
Yes, and all that now becomes this trust flow diagram repository. So the idea is that we actually take these trust flows, these trust flow diagrams, and we make more of them. And essentially, we are doing this together to create a common understanding of all the components and actors that are involved in all these interactions of this kind of trust flows. And of course, the idea here is to support the design and implementation of these kind of trust flows. And we want to do this. We want to create this repository for the people which need a bit more information than just the use case, because there is like you can present the use case, you can present the idea, and it's relatively easy to grasp. But then there's the question, okay, what is the next level? So what do you really need to be doing? Which organizations are involved? Who needs to do what? And essentially, this is where this level of the trust flow diagrams comes into place. And yeah, so the kind of the target group are, for example, business analysts, architects, program or project managers, and essentially also people who just want to explain in a bit more detail of how the Swiss trust infrastructure works. Now, to illustrate this a bit, we used one example. I mean, Nora already mentioned we do quite a lot in the banking part, but we also do other areas. And here we chose one example which you should be already familiar to those of you who've already been in the on-site meeting in February. And there Kevin Zahner from Educa showed a proof of concept about the digital maturity diploma in Switzerland. So the idea is that as a student from school, you get your diploma digitally now, and with this you would like to go to the university and would like to apply there for a place at the university. And this process we took now and we used it to do this trust flow diagram. And now next I would like to walk you a bit through the actual process of how we collaborate and how we got there. Now that's how we collaborate. We have these different steps. First step, of course, is okay, you first have to find a group of interested people. Now, I mentioned already Kevin Zahner from Educa. They care a lot about the schools. Then there's also Switch, which cares a lot about the universities. And we found Davide, who's very interested in this topic. And then we also found Matteo from Sapio, which are also interested in applying these verifiable credentials in the education sector. That was kind of the core group, and then we came together with them and we said, yeah, let's draw a bit. So Nora, Julian, I, and Kevin and Davide and Matteo met, and we started drawing this diagram, and we already realized, as Nora already said, initially we got something, but it needed several iterations. So we met actually several times in different constellations, and we improved it more and more, until to a point where we said, okay, that's now a good state, we can show this to other people. And then we went to the next step, and we had a review with the the target group. So we actually had two enterprise architects, Simon and Christian, and we sat together, went through this flow again, and they again found a few points that were still not quite correct. And you see already there is this iterative process there. There's quite a lot which has to be done. And now we are there at this point where we say, okay, we have a good status of this trust flow diagram, and now we would like to publish it. And this is currently an ongoing discussion where we are going to decide which format we are going to use. We're currently looking at two formats here. We're also looking at where we want to publish it, but this is actually currently the status of this and of other flows which are already in a very good state. And then there's this DDAS working group on trust flow diagram repository, and there we also have other discussions. And first of all about this kind of technicalities, but also about how we want to continue. So how we want to implement this iterative process, how we want to ensure that after we publish something that there can also be reviews, there can also be improvements which will need to happen afterwards. And of course then also that we kind of have this goal that we see, okay, there is really confirmed implementation in place. And for this, we now also discuss maturity levels and other ideas of how to make this work. So much for the collaboration. Now I would actually like to show you a trust flow, and ideally I would like to show you this in a demo. Now you see here the Miro board of these education trust flows, and we chose Miro actually because it's pretty let's say low barrier entry. So we can just invite people and say, okay, let's draw this together, and it's pretty easy to use and to learn. Now, of course, this will not be what we publish. In the published version, we will have more stricter format, which is also a bit more machine readable, but this is really a good tool to collaborate. Now, I'm just going to walk you through the flow a bit, and first I would like to show you the legend. That's up here. That's what we use. So we have in blue, we have the different actors. In green, we have actions that are done by people. And in yellow, we have actions that are done by systems, so that are actually automated. And if we go to the first part of the flow here, then what we see here is the creation of the EduID account. Now, this is something that was brought from our colleague from Switch, because he said, look, in Switzerland, almost every university student has such an EduID account that we provide actually, that Switch provides. And it wouldn't make sense to have the data there, to also, first of all, to have a service for the universities so that they don't have to do everything themselves. We can also store some data in the EduID account that the student needs anyway. And this is shown here in the first part of the flow. So we have here Switch as the National Research and Education Network. We have the university as an actor, and we have the student, which either has or does not have an EID. Now, the first step that the student wants to do is to register with this EduID account. And then the question is, okay, do you have an EID? If it's yes, then you can present the EID. And then you can also next, if you have it, present the digital maturity certificate. And all of this gets then stored already into the EduID and can then be later on consumed by universities. Of course, if this is not the case, then you can still input your information manually and also upload a picture of your physical ID. You need some kind of picture for this EduID account. But You can already imagine downstream when universities want to use the data, this will not be so easy. Because then if we go to the second step, the actual immatriculation step, the student is now coming to the university and really wants to immatriculate at the university, logs in with this EduID account, and then there is already the question of the university. Okay, do you have this EID attributes available? Now, if there's a yes, then the question is, do you have this digital maturity certificate available? And if there's a yes again, there's a check, are the informations matching? And if this is yes, then the process is done. It's just over. Fully automatic. Now, of course, if there is a no somewhere, then the interesting part starts, because then the student has to present some ID card again. There needs to be some onboarding process, which is often manual. Same as then with the maturity certificate. If there's no such thing as a digital one, then the student will likely manually upload diplomas, and then there will be again the human which will check this diploma. So you can see here what also Nora mentioned before, this idea of the business case. It actually, okay, you have some costs of doing all of this, but you can see that you have also the advantages that you can actually do a lot of, that you can save a lot of also. And then you can do the calculation, think about, okay, how much would I save with this? Of course, there will be students which have no EID, so the old process will still be somehow have to be supported. But you can still save a lot by automation, and then you can think about, okay, how much is this worth to be doing? Yes, and what you can also see, what is also nice in this process of drawing the actual diagrams, is that when you do this, you also see where your organization fits. You also see kind of what your organization can do and what others have to be doing. And this also helps you a bit to understand how you can actually take part in this whole ecosystem. Yeah, now we can switch back to the presentation. And Nora, maybe you want to tell something about the other flows?
Yes, so we've worked quite a bit on the different education flows, the diploma issuance, the onboarding, the enrollment in further education is also on the way, and document issuance for further education diplomas as well. In the financial side, we've worked on the branch walk-in, the bank online re-identification for when Axel loses his phone in Buenos Aires or in, no, where were you on vacation?
Somewhere in Brazil.
Somewhere. In Sao Paulo. In Sao Paulo, that's right. So what do you do then? And can you identify yourself then with your EID to your bank and reinstall your banking apps in Sao Paulo when you're still there on vacation? Then there is the Know Your Customer and Know Your Business Credential. That has been worked on a lot also by Michael Germont-Kolowitz and Eva Zellamlaar. That has also been a very interesting discussion, which we'll be sure to bring at some other point. We thank also Stefan Knaus, who has organized the Open Banking Project workshops, which have been very stimulating and where we use also these flow diagrams to discuss things. Vasily, Peter, Jan Carlos, and Daniel are great members of DIDAS and support a lot with the infrastructure, and Pierman Zimmerman helped with the very first banking branch walk-in flow diagrams that started this off. So this has all been done also with the support of the Open Banking Project and Swiss Informatics, where we've been running this working group. What have we learned and how have we benefited? We've seen already many times the first flow is always wrong. Obviously, you need several iterations and more than you think. But participating in these discussions is in itself already very valuable, and it's great to work with people. These flows generate business ideas and highlight open questions, and then you can also make variations. Well, shall we do that with this company or with several companies? Shall we have also a picture ID and a picture comparison, or is that not needed? What are the security measures and where does the secure data flow through? So all of these questions can then also be implemented and shown in such a flow. But above all, these discussions are a lot of fun. We enjoy very much working with Rolf and his team, with Open Banking, with Swiss Informatics, with DIDAS, with Ad Novum, Aragon. It's really great with the different banks and companies. Really great to work together and create this repository of flow diagrams so that people can learn from each other. So join us on this journey.
Yes, join us in this journey. Here you have our contact information. You can also, if you have any use case, or if you would like to contribute to one of the use cases mentioned, or if you have a new use case, you can just contact us, write us on LinkedIn, and get in touch with us. As I showed you, it's pretty easy to actually join and to work on the Miro board. You can also write directly to launchpad@didas.swiss. And of course, if Daniel convinced you that this orchestrator role of Didas is really something that you would like to support, then of course you can also become a Didas member and actively help to shape the ecosystem in this way.
So
Thank you.
thank you all for this opportunity to present our idea.
Of course, thank you for the presentation, Nora and Axel. I have said already many times, and I will repeat myself because it holds true. The Federal Confederation has a special role, a special responsibility in setting up, first of all, the legal basis, but then also the infrastructure for all this work. But then, if adoption shall take place, we need the help and the support and the keenness and the enthusiasm of other actors such as you are and you're representing. So thank you so much. And I believe this methodology of flow diagrams is a methodology which is not only relevant for Switzerland, but also beyond. I am not sure what the status of the work is in that respect in other geographies, but let's share. I understand these flow diagrams have not been published yet, but they will be published soon, and we will help, we from the Swiss Confederation will help to spread the word on that. And if it is useful beyond our borders, then even better. I suppose some of these flow diagrams will have to be adapted a little bit, but it will at least serve as a huge inspiration. Okay, so thank you very much for all the work you have done, and I encourage you to keep working, because I believe this is not yet all done. And with this, we come to the end of our executive summary, which was not so summary today, but I think even more interesting. I'm just looking in the direction of Jean-Luc. You have been busy on the chat, but nothing that has to be discussed here in front of the camera. With this, it is my pleasure to announce the next participation meeting, same place, same time in 1 month, on July 2nd. We will provide you again also a executive summary in English. In the meantime, get in touch with us, get in touch with Nora and Axel. If you have any ideas, concerns, questions, or recommendations. Also don't forget, enjoy life, enjoy summer, at least if you live in the Northern Hemisphere. And thank you again for your attention, and have a nice evening. Bye-bye.